Starry Night Newscast. Dun dun dun! Starring James as our anchor, Richard as our co-anchor.
Welcome, my fellow Americans, to the Starry Night Newscast, reporting live from Studio 1, November 10th, 1970. Today we are celebrating our triumphant victory in the space race against our friends, the Soviet Union. Starting in 1959, during the Cold War, the Soviet Union launched a satellite, and in response, the U.S. began to send spacecraft. This soon became an informal yet significant race to space. The Soviet and the US have continued to explore and make the furthest technological advancement for outer space, which was extremely important for potential military use. Let's turn it to our experts, John, a US expert, and Vladimir, our USSR expert on camera too.
Hi James, thank you for having me on your lovely newscast this evening.
It's a privilege to be here on this American newscast.
Okay, today we have the honor of showing our viewers a debate between both experts of these past years during the time of exploration known as the space race, which was initiated by the Weimar Republic. Now let's go to camera 3 with our eyewitness news with Richard. Take it away, Richard.
Thanks, James. Hello, my Americans. I have a special report today. I have here with me American astronaut Neil Armstrong. He had the honor of experiencing all of the space race historical events, including Gemini 8 in 1966 and Apollo 11 in 1969, in which he landed on the moon.
Hello. Thanks for having me tonight. It's an honor to be here with you to share this amazing experience with all of America.
So tell us, how did it feel like to be the first person to land on the moon?
Oh, it was such an impacting experience in my life. I felt starstruck. Everything looked mystical due to the bright, shining stars.
How did the surface of the moon look?
It seems as if it was just rocks and dirt, but the words to explain how I felt do not exist. I wish I was able to take my suit off and touch it with my bare hands and see it without being behind the glass.
So now, let's go to a recap of the moment Mr. Armstrong landed on the moon.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Thanks for the touching video, Richard. Now, let's talk to our experts on the real stuff and the cause of this event called the space race. Tell us, how did it start?
Well, it all started because the U.S. had advanced technology after World War II. I want to thank President John F. Kennedy and President Dwight D. Eisenhower for leading the U.S. into the innovative race. Our former President Eisenhower was the
Hold up. The space race started due to the knowledge we have in the Soviet Union. We were the first to send anything up into space. And you Americans were just scared of our increasing power when we sent the first Sputnik up in 1959.
Okay, yes, your country did send many Sputniks through 1959 and 1961, but those are very small accomplishments compared to ours. I'll let you take credit for that, but we Americans ultimately won the race.
Yes, you Americans may have won, but what matters is the climb to success. And the Soviets won that battle. We obviously sent more spacecrafts, like the Lunas, the Sputniks, the Cosmos, and many more, since 1959 up until this date, that have been more successful than yours.
Yes, you must be proud of all the failed spacecrafts that exploded, not to mention the cosmonauts you sacrificed, including Vladimir the first man lost in space in 1963.
Well, not all our spacecrafts had human beings in them. We sent many unmanned spacecrafts for precautions. We also sent a spacecraft with dogs in them in the early 1960s to prevent any human injuries or deaths.
That was animal maltreatment. How can you live yourself for sending poor innocent dogs to space? That was animal cruelty.
Excuse me, but I recall your country sending chimpanzees up to space after we sent dogs. Wouldn't that be considered animal cruelty as well?
We sent chimpanzees, which were more aware of what was going on. On the other hand, your country sent man's best friend.
At least we didn't have so many people die like they did in your Apollos.
Yes, we sent many honorary men into space who unfortunately died. But they died serving for our country, and we honored them.
They may have, but what honor did they receive if you committed the same mistake multiple times? You disgraced them all.
As you can see, this race was created indirectly by the Soviet Union and the US missions to space, including the most recent and memorable event, the moon landing by NASA. Okay, let's take a quick break from this heated debate.
Off into space. Man, that takes real teamwork. And here's a team of junior spacemen with an out-of-this-world breakfast that teams up V8 juice and Cheerios for flavor and energy.
And we're back. Now, some of our viewers have sent us some questions that they would like to have answered. Let's send it to Richard with some viewers' questions.
Hello again. Today we have a question for the Soviet Union expert. Were any women sent up to space? And if so, what year? Well, actually, we were the first ones to send a woman up to space. On June 16, 1963, to be exact, we chose Valentina Tereshkova, who served in our Soviet Air Force. Next question comes from Fred, and he wants to ask the U.S. expert how many Apollo missions there were, and which one was Neil Armstrong on.
Well, Fred, there has been 11 Apollo missions. Neil Armstrong was on the 11th Apollo, which occurred last year in 1969. Hopefully, there'll be more successful Apollo missions in the future.
The final question comes from an anonymous viewer, and they would like to know why the U.S. got involved in the space race.
Well, due to the conflicts with the Soviet Union, the U.S. wanted to ensure that the Soviets didn't have any military advantage, such as missiles and nuclear bombs. We then started to research the Soviet space actions to get a better understanding of the advances and to avoid any threat of destruction. It was a way to ensure the American safety and security in our homeland.
Well, folks, you heard it from the experts. This space race has played an important part in both American and Soviet history. Thanks to these amazing discoveries, we will hopefully send more people or animals up into space to continue making history like we Americans do. I send it back to you, James, in the studio.
Well, folks, that's all we have for tonight. This concludes the segment for the night, but we will end with this fabulous song by the one and only Elvis Presley.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show, three to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything but take me over my blue suede shoe. Well, you can knock me down, step in my face, slander my name all over the place. We'll do anything that you want to do, but